Hi everyone, welcome to today's new video. 2023 is almost over and we're getting into 2024, and honestly I'm so excited to talk about my 100 books that I read this year. So I think 2023 book-wise was really crazy because we've truly been treated with all the books coming out. Literally some of my favorite books and some of my favorite book series were series that came out literally this year, and I've been blessed when it comes to reading. I think my reading truly took off this year. I started reading in 2021, but this year I finally think I found like my genre and the things that I like, and I read the most out of all years. So today I'm going to talk with you about my 100 books that I read this year, and I'm going to talk to you about them in month wise. So starting in January, slowly working towards December. So I have Storygraph on my iPad. It is something similar to Goodreads but with a rating system that is far more detailed. So I'm getting my app. I also noticed I barely read any physical books, so I don't have much to show you, but I'll put like a cover or a title of the book right here so you know which book I'm talking about. I'm gonna do this like really rapidly, so I'm just gonna say the book, say my rating, and maybe like a little bit about what I liked about it or what it was about. So starting off with January, I read 4 books, and one of my most hated books this year was Normal People by Sally Rooney. I gave this one 2.5 stars, but I think honestly it could have been lower because I was annoyed all through this book. Then I got to one of my favorite series actually, which is Skith, and I rate this one 4 stars, but I think going back to it, it would probably be a lot higher. Then I read Shatter Me. No, not Shatter Me. Unravel Me, which is the second Shatter Me novel. I read that one 3.5 stars. I'm not a fan of that series, to be quite honest. And I also read Fracture Me, which is the novella after Unravel Me. Gave that one 3 stars as well. Then we're going to February, and in February I only read 1 book. I don't know, but in January and February I was slumping. I didn't read much, and you can tell. So in February I only read Beast at Every Threshold, and this is a poetry collection, and I just realized poetry is not my thing. I don't like poetry, I don't like reading about it. So 2 stars. Then we're going to March, which is I think it's my second most read books in a month, which is 9 books. And I started the month off with The Song of Achilles. I love that book. I would definitely read it again. It's my baby. So 5 stars. Then I read the entire Mindfuck series, and that is 5 novellas about this girl who is a serial killer, and she falls in love with an FBI agent, I think it is, and he is researching her case. So this is one of my favorite series of all time. Once again, I think a 5-star series. 5 novellas, so I read those individually, but you could read them in one book as well. And I read this random novella, which is Jack Halloween Monster Ever After, I think, and I read that one 1 star. Then, because I really love The Song of Achilles, I read Galatea by Madeline Miller, which is like a really short novella, and I also read Ellie Hazelwood's novella Under One Roof, and both of those novellas were 3 stars for me. Then we're going to April, and in April I read 7 books, starting off with The Silent Patient, one of my favorite thrillers, 5 stars. Then we have It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, and this one was so unnecessary. I know the story was very popular and that's why it got like a sequel, but that was so unnecessary. 2.5 stars. Then we have the sequel to Skith, which is Thunderhead, and I love that one even better than the first one. After that came Ignite Me, and this was kind of like the only book in the Shatter Me series that I didn't hate. I did like the first book, but that was like really in the beginning of my reading journey, but this one was okay. Then I got to what is now one of my favorite fantasy series, which is ACOTAR, And this book was like a really good first book, but only like this last 200 pages were entertaining. But I did really like that book and I continued the series. So the first book was like 4 stars. Then I got the Inheritance Games, and I think it's the Lost Heir or something. At least it's the first and the second book in the Inheritance Games trilogy, and both of these were like solid 4-star books. I really liked the story, I liked the plot, but it wasn't special, to say the least. Then we're going to May, and in May I read 5 books. Starting off with Twisted Love, I expected so much more from this book. I really thought this book was going to be like amazing and I was going to love it because I saw so many good things about this series, and I did not. This was the cringiest romance read I've ever read, and that is saying something. So 3 stars. After that came my favorite book of the year, which is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. A 5-star read. Do I have to say more? Yeah, then I had to read this weird book for school. It's called The Good Life and the Free Market. It's like a philosophy book and I wouldn't recommend it, honestly. Then we have The Queen of Nothing, 3rd book in the Elfhame series, and I love that series with my whole heart. And then came The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan, and I felt a little too old for this one, so I gave that one 3 stars. But I would recommend it to like my little sister and kids who are like a little younger, but I do think I'm gonna continue the series because Netflix just came out with like the series and I'm intrigued. Then in June I started off with Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I read this one before I read Caraval, but it was like really solid. I gave it a 4 stars and I liked it. After that came Gallant, and I did not like this book. This was my first V. Schwab book and that didn't leave that best of an impression, so 3 stars. After that I continued the ACOTAR series with Echo Moth, and this was an immediate 5-star book. We Were Liars was like a little YA thriller, but it also really wasn't, and I was disappointed. So 2, 3 stars, I don't know, I'm still in doubt what I'm gonna rate that one. I would not recommend it unless you want like a really fast book. The Ballad of Never After is the 2nd book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, and this one was close to a 5-star but not quite, so I gave this 4.5 stars. Then I had this little novella thingy, which is part of the Last Hours series, but I didn't know it was part of that series, so I read it and I was so confused. I was like, what is this novella trying to tell me? I have no clue who these people are, but apparently it's part of a series. So yeah, I can't actually rate that one. And I also read Mouse, which is like a really impressive graphic novel that I would definitely recommend. Rated 3 stars, but still a really good one. Then in July, it finally started picking up my reading. I read 12 books and I started off with Magnolia Parks, which is one of my favorite romance reads of the year because I just loved the whole toxic thing. I rated it 5 stars. After I read Killjoy, which is like a little novella in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, and really enjoyable, probably like 3.5 stars or something. Then came The Lost Sisters Duet, which is also a novella but in the Elfhame series because I missed being in that world. So it was cute, but 2 stars because I don't know how to rate novellas properly. Then I read like 4 Lore Olympus volumes, and these are graphic novels that follow Hades and Persephone, and these are so enjoyable, but they're so much of a slow burn, which kind of annoyed me. So I think I rated most of them like 4 stars, but they were beautifully created and I love the artwork. Then I read From Blood and Ash, and that was one of my most disappointing fantasy reads because I saw so many good things about the series and I just didn't like it. I thought Poppy was, I liked her character, but it was nothing special, and also like the romance and the whole plot twist, it was so predictable. I was like, how do you not see this? This was so clear and obvious. So 3.5 stars. Then I read Faraday and I was pleasantly surprised because I've seen so much Colleen Hoover hate. But Faraday was quite enjoyable. It was kind of predictable, and the thriller aspect, it was kind of scary when Faraday was like on the stairs. But I don't think this is like the best thriller I've ever read, but it was solid, so I rated it 4 stars. Then I read Genderqueer, and I just think I'm not the intended audience for this one, but I would recommend it if you're like interested in the topic, but I personally rated it 2 stars. Then I read Fangs, and this is also just a very cute graphic novel. As you might notice, I started reading graphic novels quite a bit, but that was because when I fall into kind of like a slump, I pick up something completely different to get me out, and graphic novels kind of did that for me this year. But yeah, Fangs was fine. It was like 2.5 stars. It's about a vampire and a werewolf, and it's cute. Then, because it was kind of a whole hype on TikTok, I read The Naturals by Lynn Barnes. No, Jennifer Lynn Barnes, I'm sorry. And I like that series. I think I like the Inheritance Game series more than this series, but it was very solid. It's like Criminal Minds with teens, I guess. So 4 stars. And after that, because the series got like a second season, Summer I Turned Pretty, it was cute. I do think the show is better, which is not something I say that often. 3 stars. Then in August, I started off with 2 classics, which were The Art of War and The Metamorphosis. And that is, like I said, when I feel I'm gonna get in a slump, I try something different. And classics are not my thing. I rated both these like 3 stars because I think you can't rate a classic really low, but it wasn't my thing. Husky was by far the worst book I read this year. 1 star. Wouldn't recommend. Then I read Restore Me because I thought I had to give the series another try, and this one was equally disappointing as the other books. This was just way slower than the other books. So 3 stars, but a low one, honestly. And then the book that took over the whole book community this year, Fourth Wing. Yeah, I rated 5 stars. I loved it. I didn't love the ending because it was heartbreaking, but the book itself was really solid for me. Can I say a controversial thing? I think I can. I started reading the Throne of Glass books in August, and I read The Assassin's Blade first. Read it first. Don't read it third or whatever they say. Read it first. And I also read Throne of Glass, just like the first book. And I think those were the 2 strongest books in the series up until now, because I'm on Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms. So I haven't read the entire series, but up until now, those 2 books were like the far most enjoyable. And that is saying something. So both of these are like 5 stars. Divine Rivals is also a book that like took over the internet in this year, and I read it and it was cute. I do think if you really like fantasy like me, this book wasn't doing much. It was like very solid, very cute, but not much of the fantasy aspects. So 4 stars. Then I read Caraval, and I read this after the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, and I enjoyed Caraval way more actually than the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, which is weird because it's normally the way around, but Caraval was a 5-star read. And then the 3rd book in the ACOTAR series, A Court of Wings and Ruin, 5 stars. And in September I was kind of slumping as well, so I started off with Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, and I wasn't a fan. A memoir, but it's not my thing. I don't like memoirs, and now I know that, so I don't have to read it ever again. It was like 1.5 stars for me. Then the 3rd Throne of Glass novel, Crown of Midnight, amazing, love the story, 4.5 stars. And also Icebreaker, which is surprising because I wasn't in a romance mood for a long time, but Icebreaker kind of did it for me. I loved the chemistry and the characters. In October, I started off with the 4th Agatha book, which is A Court of Frost and Starlight, and that is just a really cute Christmas episode, so 4 stars for that one. After that, I read How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I'm not gonna talk about that. I don't know why I read that. So 3 stars. Why am I doing 4 if it's 3? 3 stars. Also, The Final Gambit, last book in the Inheritance game series. Kind of disappointing. I wouldn't read that one again. 3 stars as well. Haunted Hearts was like for a video that I never uploaded, which is like reading 5 novellas in 5 days. Hated that one. 1 star. Heir of Fire, like the 3rd or the 4th Throne of Glass novel. No, I was honestly disappointed by this point, because this book ruined basically the series for me at that point. So 4 stars, but only because it was that long, so I couldn't rate it below that. Mountain Grump, would not read that again, honestly. 2 stars. And also Scream for Us, once again for that one video that I never uploaded, 2 stars. Then She Was Gone was by far my favorite thriller this year, and I rated that one 4.5 stars. I do think it's quite dark. It gets really dark towards the end, so please check trigger warnings. And then Belladonna, which was a very solid book. I really did like it, but I do think the relationship was very, very unbelievable. So 3.5 stars. Then in November, I read 13 books, which is like crazy. I started off with Extraordinary, which is just a novella by V. Schwab, 2 stars. And then, oh my god, Flawless, one of my favorite romance reads of this year. It was a solid 4.5 stars. I love that one. I didn't know I needed a cowboy romance, but this was the best. Also, Legendary, 2nd book in the Caraval trilogy, and solid 4 stars. Mooncakes, which is like a graphic novel, very cute, love the art, and 4 stars. Iron Flame, by far the most disappointing sequel to a really popular book. Was not it for me. I did rate it 5 stars because I do think the story itself is really good, and the book after this is probably gonna get good, but this was kind of like a filler book and I did not vibe with this book. Ariel, once again poetry. I don't know why I picked it back up. 1 star. Then we have The Stranger and Camilla, both classics, also for a video, and both of those are like solid 3-star classics, not my thing. Then we have March 1, which is a graphic novel, which was not the best, not the worst. I think if you're interested in the subject, it's like very good, 3 stars. And we have Thief, which is like a little novella, which was kind of stupid, 2 stars. After that, I did continue the Throne of Glass series because I need to know what happens next with Queen of Shadows, and this one was a little better than Heir of Fire. This one is like 4.5 stars, and I'm okay with that. And then my favorite romance read of the year, the absolute favorite, which is Love Theoretically. And if you want more about that book, check out a video of mine. I think it was the last video where I talk about the books that I read in November. And The Girl from the Sea is like another cutesy graphic novel kind of thing, 3 stars. And then we go to my last reading month, which is December. And that is by far the craziest reading month I've ever had because I had 20 books. Let's talk about them. So I started off with Checkmate, which is Ella Hazelwood's newest release, and that was cute. Wasn't YA, I don't know why it said YA. It was definitely not YA, but it was 4 stars. A Dark Shade of Magic, kind of disappointing, didn't really like it, 2.5 stars. Then I read like Ice Planet Barbarian, the first book, and also the novella after, and I'm honestly kind of scared if people tell me that they like these books, because that was something else. 3 stars max. And then I read like all the Heartstopper things, so Heartstopper mini comics, Heartstopper yearbook, Nick and Charlie, and This Winter. And also the newest Heartstopper book, which is like volume 4, 5? I have no clue. I think it's 5. All of those are really cute. I do think Alice Oseman, her like thing is more the graphic novel style. I didn't like her normal books, but all of those were around a 3 or a 4-star book, which is kind of good, I guess. Also the Tea Dragon Society graphic novel, super cute. I love this one. 4 stars. I don't know, I just liked it. Then we have Lessons in Chemistry, which I really didn't like because my boyfriend read this and he was like, oh my god, you need to read it, and no, no. Then I read The Deal, which weirdly enough I did really like because I've seen so many negative things about this book, but this was so good. I loved the romance. 4.5 stars. Then we have Corrupt, and I'm honestly ashamed to tell you this, but this was so good. 4.5 stars. This was my first dark romance ever, and it was amazing. I loved that one. Honestly loved it. Then we have Happy Place, and I just know Emily Henry and we're not this. We don't click, we don't vibe, but I wanted to try it, give her like a very honest view, I guess, because I felt like I wasn't honest with my review in the past, so I tried again. 3 stars. Happy Place was not my book. Then I continued the Chestnut Spring series with Heartless, and I didn't like this one like other people liked it because most people said this was like their favorite book in the series, but I think the first book was better. But yeah, cute. 3.5 stars. The Ex-Hacks, really cute, wasn't special at all. 3 stars. Because for True Love, I think not the most, but like one of the most disappointing endings of a series. This was cute, but it wasn't as cute as the other books, so 4 stars. The Awakening, I didn't expect to read the Zodiac Academy like ever because this just sounds so stupid, and it was. I'm sorry, it was. 3 stars. Red Rising, I think I'm gonna read more sci-fi because every sci-fi book I've read so far has been rated so highly. So yeah, 4.5 stars. And then the final book, which is Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. Cute romance, like the cowboy aspect, like the whole going to a barn, but solid 3 stars. Definitely a 3-star book, yeah. But those were my 100 books that I read this year. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've read any of these. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the support this year, and I'll see you in the next year.